Hello and welcome to Synth, the YouTube channel where technology is simplified. In today's video we're going to be looking at how a graphics card works, but before we get into that, be sure to drop a like and subscribe. The images you see on a monitor are made up of tiny dots called pixels. At most common resolution settings, the screen displays over 1,000,000 pixels, and the computer has to decide what to do with every single one in order to create an image. To do this, it needs a translator, something to take binary data from the CPU and turn it into a picture you can see. Unless a computer has graphics capabilities built into the motherboard, that translation takes place on a graphics card. A graphics card's job is complex, but its principles and components are easy to understand. Think of a computer as a company with its own art department. When people in the company want a piece of artwork, they send a request to the art department. The art department decides how to create the image and then puts it on paper. The end result is that someone's idea becomes an actual viewable picture. A graphics card works along the same principles. The CPU, working in conjunction with software applications, sends information about the image to the graphics card. The graphics card decides how to use the pixels on the screen to create an image. It then sends that information to the monitor through a cable. Creating an image out of binary data is a demanding process. To make a 3D image, the graphics card first creates a wireframe out of straight lines. Then it rasterizes the image. It also adds lighting, texture and colour. For fast-paced games, the computer has to go through this process about 60 times per second. Without a graphics card to perform the necessary calculations, the workload would be too much for the computer to handle. The graphics card accomplishes this task using four main components: a motherboard connection for data and power, a processor to decide what to do with each pixel on the screen, memory to hold information about each pixel and temporarily store completed pictures, and a monitor connection so that you can see the final result. Like a motherboard, a graphics card is a printed circuit board that houses a processor and RAM. It also has a BIOS chip, which stores the card's settings and performs diagnostics on the memory, input and output at startup. A graphics card's processor, called a graphics processing unit, or GPU, is similar to a computer's CPU. A GPU, however, is designed specifically for performing the complex mathematical and geometric calculations that are necessary for graphics rendering. Some of the fastest GPUs have more transistors than the average CPU. A GPU produces a lot of heat, so it is usually located under a heatsink or a fan. In addition to its processing power, a GPU uses special processing to help it analyze and use data. ATI and Nvidia produce the vast majority of GPUs on the market, and both companies have developed their own enhancements for GPU performance. As the GPU creates image, it needs somewhere to hold the information in completed pictures. It uses the card's RAM for this purpose, storing data about each pixel, its colour and its location on the screen. Part of the RAM can also act as a frame buffer, meaning that it holds the completed images until it is time to display them. Typically, video RAM operates at very high speeds and is dual ported, meaning that the system can read from it and write to it at the same time. The RAM connects directly to the digital to analog converter, called the DAC or DAC. This converter, also called the RAM DAC, translates the image into an analog signal that the monitor can use. Some cards have multiple RAM DACs, which can improve performance and support more than one monitor. The RAM DAC sends the final picture to the monitor through a cable. Graphics cards connect to the computer through the motherboard. The motherboard supplies the power to the card and lets it communicate with the CPU. Newer graphics cards often require more power than the motherboard can provide, so they also have a direct connection to the computer's power supply. Connections to the motherboard are usually through one of these three interfaces: Peripheral Component Interconnect or PCI, Advanced Graphics Port AGP, or PCI Express PCIe. PCI Express is the newest of the three and provides the fastest transfer rates between the graphics card and the motherboard. PCIe also supports the use of two graphics cards in the same computer. In addition to connections for the motherboard and monitor, some graphics cards have connections for TV displays, TV out or S-video, analog video cameras, VIVO or video in, video out, and digital cameras, Firewire or USB. A top-of-the-line graphics card is easy to spot. It has lots of memory and a fast processor. Often it's also more visually appealing than anything else that's intended to go inside a computer's case. Lots of high-performance video cards are also illustrated or have decorative fans or heatsinks. But a high-end card provides more power than most people really need. People who use their computers primarily for email, word processing or web surfing can find all the necessary graphics support on the motherboard with integrated graphics. A mid-range card is sufficient for most casual gamers. People who need the power of a high-end card include gaming enthusiasts and people who do a lot of 3D graphics work. A good overall measurement of a card's performance is its frame rate, measured in frames per second. The frame rate describes how many completed images the card can display per second. The human eye can process about 25 frames every second, but fast action games require a frame rate of at least 60 FPS to provide smooth animation and scrolling. The computer's CPU and motherboard also play a part, since a very fast graphics card can't compensate for a motherboard's inability to deliver data quickly. Similarly, the card's connection to the motherboard and the speed at which it can get instructions from the CPU affects its performance. That's about it for this video, but if you want to know more about the components of a computer, click one of the videos on screen now. If this video helped you, make sure to drop a like and subscribe, and with that being said, I'll see you in the next one.